conferences now. We just came out of BRICS, of course, and it was a similar sort of notion, really strengthening the SADC region, which would in itself aid the rest of Africa as well. He spoke about the African Free Trade Agreement, which is something that I think is a massive step, which will take a very long time to sort out correctly and in full. But certainly the movement of the free movement of people across the African continent will certainly boost
movement
things like...
and goods.
Exactly. Yeah. Movement and goods will certainly boost tourism, will boost trade, will boost the economic enhancements as well of the entire African continent, and really speaking about ensuring that that is stabilized and that people form part of one unison project as well for Africa, and we certainly could move forward. So some clear remarks, but remarks that we certainly have heard before.
The Africa Free Trade Agreement, President Cyril Ramaphosa harping on it, and you can see the different bodies across ECOWAS as well, giving commitment to making sure that it happens. What kind of time frames do you think we can start to see anything in terms of what it can achieve for the continent? Let's
remember that you still have the stickler of Nigeria having to sign. They still haven't. Right? They still haven't firmly committed.
Even when they promised.
Exactly. They still haven't given a firm commitment to it in itself. So, look, and once you get to sign, now you have terms of agreement, right? But you certainly still haven't sorted out the little niggling issues between the two countries. So besides the fact that it's going to be free trade in a sense, it's still going to be somebody needs to gain something from somebody else when it comes to a particular matter of sorts. So if it's the transportation of vehicles from here to another country, there still needs to be some pact signed between those two nations there too, to say, okay, that's okay to happen. Right, so I think it's going to be a large document and will take some time.
Let's finally move on to the markets. This week, Naspers...
certainly a big issue, isn't it?
Affecting movements at the JSE?
It has. Now, let's remember that Naspers occupies over 20% of South Africa's stock exchange. So which means if somebody was to put in 100 Rand into South Africa's JSE, 20 Rand of that would go to Naspers alone. So it occupies a big chunk, meaning anything that happens to Naspers is certainly affecting the entire market on the whole. Yeah. But nothing really happened to Naspers. It was just its big shareholding in a company called Tencent out in China. Now, what happened to Tencent? The Chinese
effect.
Indeed, yeah. So Tencent came out with their earnings results on Wednesday at around midday or so, and what that showed was that they still had revenue grow 30%. There was a massive climb in revenue, but it still wasn't as estimates. So what market had expected, it came out just below that, and because of that, people thought, okay, things are getting bad at Naspers. But all it is was that gaming revenue hasn't been looking as good.
Other market news?
At the same time, we saw Standard Bank coming out with their earnings results. It seems that the rest of Africa is doing well for all the banks, so they're focusing on their African strategy. The question becomes, where does First Rand find their growth? Because they don't have a heavy footprint in the rest of Africa as well. Also, Goldfields coming out.
National.
Yeah. Indeed. Goldfields also came out with their earnings. That's following from their announcement to cut 1,560 jobs. You can tell that they have heavy impairments and cannot be sustaining the South Deep mine, which they currently have as their only mine in South Africa. Does that mean that they close operations sometime soon is the question.
Yeah, we would love to unpack those stories further, but unfortunately that's where we're going to have to end it. Arabile Gumede, thank you so much for the time you're watching The Agenda. Let's take a break now. We'll be back in a moment.